networking is something that I guess has been around since there have been businesses. There's always been networking. How important is it to the small and medium-sized businesses to build and use a network?
I think it really depends on what they do. But if as increasingly they are providing services rather than products, I think it's more and more important for them to build a network, especially as the size of businesses seems to be shrinking. So that whereas in a lot of older businesses, a lot of your network might have been internal, that's not the case these days, especially with lots and lots of more services being outsourced. So I think it's pretty critical, particularly in the services and business services arena.
How would you define a network? What actually is a network?
A network is the people around you and your business that are your support, that are your route to market, perform a lot of other functions, and not just business. I mean, we have networks socially. We have networks around where we live. Perhaps if we've got children at school, we're involved in networks of people. There might be a network that you go to the pub with. You might play golf. You might go to the local church. You might be involved in local village hall. You might be involved if you're in a town like this. You might be involved in a number of organisations. You might be involved in the local council. You might be involved in all sorts of things. So networks are not just business. They're collections of people.
Are there different levels of networking? Are there, at the most basic level, you go out, you meet someone, you exchange business cards, and that's that, and fine, they're in your network in some sense of the word. But presumably there are more detailed, more in-depth relationships that you can build over time. I mean, presumably that depends on what business you're in and what you're trying to achieve with the networking, does it?
I think it can do, yeah. But I think you're right that, when networking, you're going to probably, certainly early on, meet a lot of people. And part of what you're doing is researching, well, where are the people that I want to meet? Where are they networking? And you're trying to find the groups that you're comfortable in, and you're meeting those sorts of people. So I think early on, you'll meet a lot of people. I don't think just collecting somebody's business card means they're in your network. I mean, because my experience is that most business cards go on somebody's desk at the end of the day. Maybe when the desk gets full, they go into a drawer and they end up in the bottom drawer or in a box somewhere. If somebody said to you, do you know anybody who does this? You might well have the business card for that person, but you have no idea that you have, and no recollection of that person. So I think, a lot of people think that that's what networking is, going out and exchanging business cards, and you've met that person and that's it, you can move on. I think what you've got to do really is try and find places and try and make real connections with people. And that can be over anything. It could be over what you do now. It could be where you used to work. It could be interests you have. But once you've got a good sense of connection with somebody, then if you like them and it's a business networking context, and you think it's worth pursuing the relationship, and they're in agreement with that, and maybe one side's leading more than the other, but you can find out more about that person, and as you meet more often, either in group situations and then for one-to-one meetings, as you get to know more and more and more about that other person and what they stand for and what they do, you probably get much happier being able to perhaps refer that person to other trusted contacts of yours, or introduce them for opportunities. So I think over time, yes, you'll meet a lot of people, but that the quality relationships that you have will tend to be a much smaller number.
Do you think in the age of the internet, the age of Twitter and Facebook and so on, has this face-to-face networking become more or less important?
I think in business services, in professional services, where there's a high degree of trust involved in the purchasing decision as well as the decision to recommend somebody, I think the face-to-face has become more and more important for a number of reasons. One is the amount of choice that is out there now is bigger than it's ever been. If you're deciding that you're going to, you need to buy in some services, you can't do the old thing of go out and interview a couple of people from the local area. You're faced with a choice of thousands. So the thing that most people do is to ask somebody that they trust, you know.
If a new business is starting out and comes to you for advice about this networking sphere, what would be the one sort of key piece of information you would want to give them?
The one key piece of information I would give them is that we see many startups spend forever polishing their offering and talk, you know, and trying to perfect their messages and all that kind of thing. Whereas really what they ought to be doing is deciding who they want to do what they do for, and then going out and finding people who also operate in that market and establish those relationships, build the network as quickly as possible rather than wait for things to be perfect. And building the network means not just going out and meeting the people once and exchanging business cards, but taking the time to really get to know them, to join the groups that are relevant to them, to engage with people one-to-one, have the personal interactions, spend the time, do the follow-up, look out for the other people, it will come back to them. And by and large, you know, the market will tell you what your offering's got to be and what the pricing is going to be and so on. Obviously, you've got to research that and start somewhere, but don't spend too much time on that. Spend time on building a network and actually getting some customers.